success is a decision. And it really is. There is so much power in just deciding. And I think we decide, and then kind of time goes along and something happens and we're like, okay, no, now I'm really serious. You know what I mean? Like the commitment is huge. So decide, commit to that thing. And then the second part of that is go all in.
Welcome to Business Origin Stories. I'm Amy Schutte, your guide to crafting a magnetic message for a profitable business. This is the podcast for you if you're ready to claim the transformative power of your own origin story and use it to create a brand that finally stands out. We're here to level up, but more importantly, I'm here to help you elevate your influence, your community, and your impact on the world. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And remember, the stories you tell yourself are your greatest currency. Today on the podcast, I'm talking to Jessica Miller, who is a certified business coach and a sales and growth strategist who helps ambitious entrepreneurs streamline and grow their businesses by optimizing their offers to be a hell yes so that they sell themselves. She helps her clients find the gaps in their businesses that can be turned into golden opportunities to produce more sustainable income, repeatable assets, and more time and freedom without working harder. Okay, well, Jessica, can you tell me where you are right now?
I am in my office outside of Boston, Massachusetts, waiting for the next downpour.
Oh, is it raining there?
Constantly.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm excited for people to meet you if they haven't met you before, because we met last year at the Story Brand or Business Made Simple Summit. And you spoke, and it was one of the best presentations that I had ever seen. It was so good. And so I'm really, really excited to talk about what you bring to your clients and really the basis of your brand. But I want to get into that. What can you tell us a little bit about what problem are you solving? Tell me a little bit about your business. I want to just give everyone a quick overview about who you are and how you serve people.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm a growth strategist and I help people, established business owners mainly, optimize their offers for hell yes. So the problem that I identified when I came out of corporate America after, 16 years of working, and I was so excited to be an entrepreneur and started working with amazing, mostly female entrepreneurs, was that I saw them struggling to make money in their business. It wasn't that they weren't capable or ambitious or just all around amazing. They were all struggling to make money. And so when I dug a little deeper, what I found was that they needed what I refer to as a hell yes offer. And what that means is it's that offer that comes across somebody's, Instagram feed or their internet, or someone tells them about it, and the thing that goes through their brain is hell yes, I need that. And so what I discovered is that when you have your business optimized for hell yes offers, they sell themselves before you even talk to people. And when you can do that, it makes everything else in your business fall into place. Your lead gen, your cash flow, your fun factor, all of that dials up when your business is not feeling like a grind. So, the problem specifically is, do you feel like you have time and ease and cash flow in your business? Or are you hitting this plateau and feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill? If the answer is yes, that's how I feel, 99% of the time, it's about optimizing your best offer, your best opportunity for growth for hell yes.
I love this because I think a lot of times people, at least, as someone who writes a lot of messaging for people or, does the business coaching piece, but people come and they're like, I just need a new website. I think I need this new brand. And a lot of times I always think it's the same thing. Well, what are you actually selling and what problem are you solving? And can we get really clear? And you talk about this a lot, I think, with your coaching clients. It is about really setting up your weeks and your lives to really fit the way you want to do business, which I think is amazing. But I want to go back to the hell yes offer. Okay, you came out of corporate, you stumbled into this or you discovered this. Tell me a little bit about what was that aha moment where you're like, oh, it's the offer. Maybe it's because you have a lot of amazing certifications. You could help people with a lot of different things. How did you decide the offer is really where you needed to focus?
So in my worldview of businesses, the offer sits at the epicenter of your entire business. If you think of your business as like a wheel with spokes, that offer informs every single thing that you do in your business. And when you optimize that central hub, everything else falls out of it. It's like magic fairy dust. And so, kind of exactly like what you were saying, I started talking to so many different people. And of course, people come to you and they're like, this is the problem right here. It's this thing. And you're like, okay, let's talk a little bit about that. And so I started to, of course, in the beginning, kind of follow that, like those rabbit holes, like, oh, it's your messaging. Let's go look at that. No, it's your website or you need Facebook ads. We kind of, as business coaches, we get kind of pulled around. And then what I realize is that at the end of the day, all those things lead back to what it is that you're selling. So, especially in my world of partnership and working with a lot of other people, because let's face it, as business owners, we're not building our business in isolation. We have a team or contractors or whomever. When people come to me and we identify that their best area of growth, and we look at what offer or what offers, it could be a few, that need to be optimized to make that whole client journey clear, everything else that falls out of that becomes optimized too. So if you know and you have your offer optimized for hell yes, meaning you know exactly what problem you're solving and to who you're talking to, you have your IP dialed in, all that intellectual property of how you specifically and uniquely solve that problem. I always tell people, like, make it binge worthy, like give people what they really want. Don't make it boring. And then it's got all that energy, all that passion that you have for whatever it is you're helping people with and what you're telling them to do. When you put those pieces together and that offer is hell yes, then your messaging falls into place. You know exactly what to say to people. You know exactly what they're struggling with. Your lead gen falls into place. What do these people need to know to pull them in and have them be interested in this offer, and how do they connect? Once they come in and they're part of your business ecosystem, meaning they've come in contact with your brand or whatever, or they've bought something from you, that back end part, which, to be transparent, I think is blue ocean for so many people, all of that falls into place. What else do they want? How do I keep them engaged? How do I keep them loyal to my company? All those pieces become clear because that offer and that problem and solution kind of bundle is really at the center of your entire business. And everyone that I work with, meaning the partners that I work with and my clients, are like, thank you so much, because all the other stuff just falls away. Doesn't mean you blow it up, like you get rid of everything else, but you can kind of put it on the sidelines a little bit or decide where in your next 12 months that's going to fit in and stack on top of it versus let's do everything at the same time and frankly really slow down your growth.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Jessica. What is, if people are hearing this, they're like, oh, actually, because I think a lot of times this happens to so many of us, right? We get into business, we start solving a lot of different problems. We could offer a lot of different things. A lot of people spend a lot of time doing custom proposals, right? We just start doing the thing. But if someone's listening to us right now and are thinking, oh my gosh, I need a hell yes offer, what is the very first thing they should start thinking about besides, calling you? But what would be something you would say, here's 2 or 3 steps to start really figuring out what that is? Because I think it sounds so good, but it also sounds a little bit daunting, maybe if you're used to living in a world where you're providing the service and the service and the service. So talk me through that.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that I tell people to do, and this is really where the growth strategy of my business comes in, and I think it's one of the most powerful pieces of working with me and my team, but frankly, with working with anybody who is an expert that you trust that is outside of your own business, it is first identifying what is working in your business. So when I look at growth strategy, what a lot of people do is they look for all the opportunities that are available for them. And as entrepreneurs, we're ideas people. We love it, right? That's part of the momentum. So what we end up doing is we are like, oh, I want a hell yes offer. Okay, let me add this. Let me add this. Let me do this. Da-da-da. What about that thing? Oh my gosh, I saw Amy do this. Maybe I should be doing that, right? We start doing all of this stuff. Or we go to our business and there's like all the things, all the offers. And we're just like, we got to dial all these things up. We got to do more of these things, launch more, whatever. My offer to all of you is find your best opportunity. Go into your business and find out what is working really well. Because here's like the $1 million tip. you want to figure out what's working and you want to do more of it. You want to do more of it. Adding on, making huge shifts, putting all these different offers in places can be really cumbersome, right? It's a whole new marketing stream. It's different messaging. It's all the things. So what I tell people is if you want to optimize for hell yes, you want to make something in your business hell yes, find out what's working and then go start there. Really start there. And then once you've identified, like, this is the thing that's making you the most money, this is the thing that lights you up, then you really want to look across that client journey, which I know sounds like very basic marketing. And in a way it sort of is, but it's the thing we always forget. So what I do is I help people identify what's working. What is that gap that you can turn into the golden opportunity in your business? Then we look at that whole client journey as it relates to that hell yes offer. And we see, where is it breaking, right? Where do you have a leaky funnel? Where is the customer journey clunky? A lot of times what people will do is that lead gen, what they're doing to pull people in, is disconnected from their offer. It's not aligned. It's not tightly aligned where somebody's going to come in and consume whatever this is on the front end. And then once they're in, it's like the next step is, I'm going to buy this offer. So those pieces get clunky. And then on the back end, if we're losing people outside of the offer, meaning they're not buying right away, or maybe they bought something in the past, but we haven't heard from them in a year, there's all of that opportunity too to look at. So it's about plugging these holes and tightening that whole experience for people. And then doing that in what I love to call a 90-day year. So I work in 90-day chunks. That is what works best for me. I think it creates more momentum in people's business and much more urgency, and you can see results quicker. So I work with my clients in that way. So we identify, okay, if this is the offer and this is the goal we want with this offer, whether it's a cash flow goal or it's a membership headcount goal, whatever it is, we flesh that out over a 90-day plan. And then we really manage to that plan. And when I say manage to that plan, one of the most important pieces that we are looking for in creating that plan to help people get to goal and plug that gap is creating repeatable assets that are going to pay you and your company long after we don't know each other anymore. So what can we put in place? What can we automate? What can we add on that's not a huge lift to really move the needle toward your bottom line moving or whatever it is that is your goal? And for established business owners, especially, when you start to move the needle 10 to 15%, we're talking about a major shift in cash flow. If it's someone that's new, it means cash flow in the door. Like, how do you make that money quickly and easily, where you're also not spending a ton of time, effort, and money up front to try to generate all of that?
Yes, absolutely. Do you do some testing when you say, okay, we've created this hell yes offer, let's throw it out into the marketplace and make sure it is a hell yes for other people? What's your process there to make sure, because marketing really is all about, it's a lot of testing, it's a lot of data. So what does that process look like, especially with a 90-day year? Are you giving it, tell me a little bit about that optimization, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, so it depends on the customer and what their situation is. But for somebody who has an established audience, taking an offer that you put together that you've tightened up and optimized, and for example, I would take that offer with someone and offer it to the people that are in their ecosystem already. So your email list is obviously gold. If you have a group with a lot of people, like, how do you put it out in front of your target market to see what happens, essentially? I am also in the current marketplace. I am not a huge fan of spending a ton of money on ad spend unless it's a very specific situation, you know what you're doing, and you have the cash flow. I think there's a lot of easy ways, if you have an audience size that you can work with, that you can do it organically and get a really good sense of what is working and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. What if you need to pivot, Jessica, or you're looking and you realize, okay, this is working, this isn't, but then you look and you're like, I don't quite have the audience yet for this offer. Where do you tell people to start building, or how to start building that to really make sure that you can ramp that up quickly?
Yeah. Network. Leverage your network. You know so many more people that can either be your target market or connect you to your target market than you realize. I always tell people to do, always leverage that warmer network first. Reach out to the people that you know, tell them what you're doing. One of the things that I did actually most recently when I started to look at my framework, and I've been doing this now for a while. And so I started to see that there may be opportunities with this framework in different industries, so different niches. And so I started to go out to my network, and whether it was new people that I was meeting, but definitely for the people that I know, I would literally, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I just want to run something by you." And I would tell them, as you know, I've been doing this thing for years. I've been working on the Hell Yes offer. I've been working on growth, and we've been seeing these amazing results. And I think there's actually a huge opportunity over here in this marketplace. And I'm trying to connect with people that I can talk to see if this is actually a reality. Who do you know? One of the marketplaces that I think there's a huge opportunity for growth strategy and maximizing that offer is in the high end spa resort and med spa space. And and so I just started asking people, like, who do you know in the med spa space? And so I started to connect, and I was doing all this market research. And that is also how I got my first clients in that industry. So leverage your network, leverage your warm market. People want to help you. You'd be shocked at who knows. You'd be shocked at who is like, oh my gosh, I'm that person or I'm this thing. And then get your offer in front of people. That is the way that you pivot. That's the way that you test it. That's the way that you sell it. Frankly, it's all the same.
I love that. My business has been successful because of my network. And so whenever I see people really pushing, go for the ads right away, I always say, especially when you're starting or you're pivoting, your network is absolutely gold. And just like you said, people want to help you. One of my bosses once told me, and this is back when I was doing a lot of fundraising, but she was like, people love to give advice. And that's one of the best ways to get in the door for asking fundraising clients if they want to be supportive. It's like, what do you think of this? What do you think of the story? And that's powerful. I think it's the same thing with our offers and our business, because it's not salesy, right? You're really going in and it's coming from a place of like, I really do want your opinion and help here. And people love that. So I think that's such a beautiful way to create good reciprocity and then get in the door with different people that you may never have met.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I think to that point too, it's about aligning that intention, because a lot of people, they have a lot of feelings about asking people for things or selling and all of those pieces. I personally love to sell, but I love to sell when I'm in service to my client. Then it doesn't feel like I'm selling anything. It feels like a moral obligation to tell people that you have a solution to a problem they're struggling with. When it comes to, like you mentioned, leveraging your network, I think it has to be aligned with curiosity. Like you really are going and talking to people about this next cool thing, and you just want to know what they're thinking. And when you go in like with that purity of heart, I think people sense it, and they're so thrilled to chat with you and tell you all the things.
That's fun. So Jessica, I mean, that's part of your energy is coming in with that too. You bring in a little bit of this woo with your business, especially with, saying this, a lot of energy behind your offer, making sure it's a hell yes offer. I love that. This was part of when you did the presentation for the Business Made Simple Summit. That was one of my favorite parts, was just what does make it that energy for you as someone that's solving a problem versus just what maybe the market needs. Can we go back there a little bit? Because I think aligning what you're offering with who you are and the season that you're in your business are all really important things, and not everything will work, at any given time. So talk to me a little bit about how do you help people really make sure their offers are aligning with their season of entrepreneur, their team, whatever they're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the things that really makes my model stand out, exactly like you mentioned earlier, is this concept that you start with your hell yes. So I think as entrepreneurs, I don't know if we've been conditioned to this, or maybe we sort of learn to look outward first. We kind of look at the marketplace like, what could I sell out there today? What do people want to buy? Oh, widgets. Okay, I'll buy. Let's go sell that thing. Or, oh, looks like everyone's, buying the eyeliner. Like, let's go make the eyeliner. That kind of thing. And I think actually it starts internally. it starts with what you're passionate about, what lights you up, what problem you want to solve, what problem you want to talk about all day long, the people that you want to hang out with and help, and starts with that energy. And then you create from there. And I think doing that, you end up with a product, and I say product service, you end up with something that you're going to sell, the offer that is so energetically aligned for you that it takes away some of that feeling that's very natural for entrepreneurs at all stage, which is like that imposter syndrome and that grind and that I got to do all the things. Some of that is lifted because you're in alignment. And when you start there, I think going out and then creating from there becomes so much easier. I think also it trains us to look internally first. It trains us to say, what do I want to do? What makes sense for this season of my life? Where am I in my business that feels good? And then go out. So it's that behavior of, I think, really training people to believe they have so much power to create whatever they want, but they have to start with themselves to really use that as their North Star and their guiding light. From there, you can create anything. You can create any plan, you can sell anything, but it's never going to feel good if it's out of alignment with you. So a lot of the coaching that I do is around that mindset work, around getting clear, both, you know, emotionally as well as logistically. I know I read one of your posts recently and you're like, I love that I have the freedom to build my business around my family and be with my kids when I want, and all of those things. When you start with knowing that and then you build your plan backwards and you reverse engineer, then it's like that is the gold. But a lot of times we do it the other way. We're being influenced by all these external things. You got to start with the hell yes.
Do your clients have a lot of resistance to that, or do you see that resistance often? Because I think that's a lot of retraining yourself, especially if you've worked in corporate for a long time, or you keep hearing we've got to do what the market needs. And you're saying, no, come back to center here and start asking yourself what lights you up. But I found even in my own life, even though this is a practice I do, there's still some resistance there at times where you're like, can I actually do that? If I did that, is that on brand, or is that completely off brand of what I'm trying to do? All these other questions start coming up. What do you say to your clients or to people that are in that space of coming back to yourself and looking for that knowing, those following the whispers that can feel really scary? How do you kind of talk people through that?
Yeah. So my experience, and this is for both men and women, when we talk about this concept of hell yes, I can physically see people, like the light bulb goes, it's almost like they relax. So my experience has been people are like, yes, that is what I want. It's almost like a visceral reaction. And they're relieved, like, oh my gosh, like this is what I've been missing. Why hasn't anyone given me permission to just be hell yes about my life and my business? So I think there's actually that initial reaction of relief. And then 3 seconds later, your brain shows up and it's like, wait a minute. That's how people go out of business, right? Right. That's how they crash and burn. What are you doing? Get with it, Jess. Like, that sounds great for other people, like the special snowflakes. So, so your brain comes in. That is totally normal. And it happens to 100% of people, including me. I think where we get through that is when we start to actually show people how it's possible. So the first part of the journey is about believing it's possible for you. It's actually giving people that beautiful gift of, let me show you what it could be like. That first psychological part of people's journey is, oh my gosh, yes, I see it. Like it's possible. And they start to then open up. It becomes, instead of how, it's more of like, what if this was possible? And then they start to move down that psychological journey to ultimately get to the place where they're like, I believe it's possible for me, and I see how I can actually make it happen. But in between there, it's you showing them like, okay, if this is what you want to do, if you want freedom with your children and to build your life around that, and let's pretend you want to do that 3 days a week, let's reverse engineer that. Like, okay, what would you need to do with this offer in order to make that happen? And then who would that be working with? And you really start to build out that 90-day plan right in front of them. And your brain cannot argue with the data. It's like, oh, yes, step 1, 2, 3. It's like, okay, I'm on board. Let's go. And then you go back into the like, wait, but then there's this other thing. And then we just kind of come back. So, with coaching, it's keeping people on that path and then also letting them sort of roll with it, but it's allowing them to believe and then see the path really.
Absolutely. And I think this is why having a coach or coaches in your life to help you see those gaps or those things. I always think people don't necessarily always need another certification. They don't always need to be running after something. A lot of that is you know enough. You can create amazing things with what you know. But I do love when it is the right time for people to find the right coach or someone to help see them and help say, no, this is amazing about you, like, and pull that out of you. And I think that's something that you're saying that is part of this process, because you're saying, I can give them permission, even though they're giving themselves permission. It's just being there and holding space for that in the moment, which is so great.
Yeah. And to that end, I think one of the most honorable things that I get to do with my clients is be a trusted guide, is to be someone that they can partner with and trust that we're going to work on it together. We're lockstep with them. We're going to give them guidance. We're not going to push them into doing something that they don't want to do. We can feel that and bring the fun into it. I mean, when you're working with somebody that you love and you feel the momentum of that, there is nothing better. I mean, when you put somebody's words on a piece of paper and they're seen and they're like, oh my goodness, that's it, or this is the path. And it is the best feeling for everybody. It's just win-win.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Jess, tell me a little bit about, I want to go back a little bit to, how did you start your business? Like, this piece is always interesting too, where I feel like when we're saying, okay, all of this is possible, and you're saying, as a coach, it's been possible for me too. Like, I've been able to, I may be a few steps ahead of you, or I may be 10 steps ahead, but I've been able to do this in my own life, which I think is really important. So can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to leave corporate, or what was that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was in corporate for 16 years and I was leading teams and doing amazing things. And I loved it. I loved the people that I worked with. I just had this inner sense that I was made for more. And I couldn't reach that potential within the corporate construct. And I knew this. I knew it, like you said, there's that little whisper, but I was like the proverbial golden handcuff, sort of leader. And I stood on the edge of that cliff for like 100 years, but I basically like dipped my toe in and I was like, okay, I'm just going to explore. And so I started to research and talk to people. And then I decided I was going to go get certified. And I started my coaching business very part-time while I was still in corporate. But similar to what I talk about now with helping people see what's possible and creating the plan, that's exactly what I did when I hired my first coach, who to this day, she's actually a master life coach and sort of a career transition coach. But she's helped me with everything under the sun as it relates to my whole life and business. And I started to reverse engineer it. So I was like, okay, this is the business I could create. And maybe I could do this type of work and sell this kind of a package. And this is how much money I would need to sort of float before I made money. I kind of went down that road and I just followed that impulse. And I made a little joke with someone that I worked with. I had just gotten pregnant with my second child. And I made a little joke with her and I said, wouldn't it be so awesome if I could just finish my maternity leave and we were going through sort of a reorg and I could get a severance package and I could like ride off into the sunset with my new baby and start my entrepreneurial journey. And essentially that is what happened, except for the fact that in between that riding off into the sunset and the pregnancy, I had a really, really serious health scare. And it was a complication of postpartum pregnancy with my son. But I ended up having what they call a spontaneous coronary artery dissection, which essentially is a heart attack at 39 years old. And it was really serious and really life-altering. And it is one of those things that when anyone experiences trauma of that nature, it just clicks the focus of your life right into focus. And so I just decided this is my time to go all in on what it is I want to do. And that happened right at the same time that my position was eliminated because of the reorg. And I got a package because I had been at the company for a long time. And my husband was like, this is the universe shoving you off of this cliff, Jess. Like, you've got the wings, go fly and do this. And I was terrified, as you alluded to, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this and all the things? And I just fell forward. I just kept sort of falling forward. And it was the best decision I ever made. But I never would have been able to navigate that course without having that trusted partner, without having, the people around me that, just like you said, when you're veering off course, they're just kind of redirecting you. But to your point, I am not a special snowflake. I am just like everybody else. And I think your heart calls you to the things you really want to do. Sometimes either there's this divine intervention, or we allow ourselves to get quiet enough to really hear it and then start to put those pieces together where we're like, oh, this isn't really a pipe dream. I can logically see how this can work. And here we are, 2013, and you're like, whoa, I've been in business for like almost 10 years. This is insane. So
what a story. That's amazing. There's so
wild
many
ride.
brave moments in there that you had to keep saying yes to this thing, right? You didn't just like fall off the cliff or dip your toe in, like, right? You're like just having to jump. That's a huge thing. And I think there's so many people that come into, and 2023, there's so many entrepreneurs and people that are starting to say, maybe there's something else out there for me. And they're moving into a small business or creating something. And just the art of doing that, it can be so brave because, I think being an entrepreneur is the best personal development you'll ever do.
that and parenting.
You've got a baby and, health stuff. That's a lot, Jess. That's quite the story. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It really makes you, what they say, right? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, sort of a thing. It really does. And I think also just giving yourself grace. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not be the person that's like, yes, I'm quitting my job tomorrow and just running into the sunset, right? It's okay to have all those feelings. But I go back to what I said before, and you really can do anything that you want to do. It's just about, finding the people to support you, getting clear in your heart with what you want, and then having a good plan. There is something to be said about, the things that we learn that make a strong business and set a strong foundation. And I think that's equally as important. I think what we call sort of the woo and the intangible stuff is crucial for success. On the other side of that equation is all the not glamorous stuff we want to talk about, which is like all the brass tacks of that formula.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that one night at dinner, I think you and I were talking about like the profit first method and the money piece and just, all the stuff that's not sexy in business, but it's so important. And I think for entrepreneurs, as they're moving into this, yes, you've got to have this belief in yourself and this very aligned thing. And also, it's really helpful to either have a coach or do a lot of your own personal development and business development to start figuring out, how do I actually make my business profitable and sound and sustainable? So I'm not having to reinvent the wheel every 2 seconds. So I love that. What's one piece of business advice or life advice that maybe one of your coaches gave you that you still like hold on to and maybe pass on to your clients? Is there one, I know there's probably a million, but is there one thing that you're like, this is like my North Star, the thing that I would tell any entrepreneur who's looking to reinvent or up level, or for someone new that maybe is coming in and just trying to find their way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it's kind of a two-pronged thing. The first part is whatever you want to do, commit to it. Decide. The power of a decision. I actually have this little sticky note. You can't see it, but it's hanging here and it says, success is a decision. And it really is. There is so much power in just deciding. And I think we decide, and then kind of time goes along and something happens and we're like, okay, no, now I'm really serious. You know what I mean? Like, the commitment is huge. So decide, commit to that thing. And then the second part of that is go all in. Like, hell yes for glory, go all in and burn those lifeboats. And I've seen this so much with myself and with my clients. We're smart enough to know that if there is that little that little umbilical cord, that little tripwire, we will hold on to it. Something happens when you decide that there are no other options. And if you have to fabricate that, like for me, I took all of the money out of my account. I had only a little bit in there. I was like, this is it. Once you're done with that, you are done. And I wasn't like destitute, but I had to fabricate that because I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, burn just through the money kind of a thing, So get rid of those lifeboats and go all in. Frankly, you do it in a calculated way. I'm not saying throw yourself off of a cliff, but you know, just really go all in. There is something so amazing about how creative you get, how brave you get, how magnetic you get when you're out there saying it's this or nothing. And let me tell you why. It's just so
Yeah.
much more fun too.
Oh my God, Jessica, it's so powerful. We were just talking about that last night when I was working with my podcast production team, and we were talking about just being hungry because I was like, when I had my first baby, and then I realized I couldn't do this. I couldn't go to work and put him in daycare. It's not what I want. It didn't feel the way I thought it would feel, and it just, ugh. So I got so hungry, and I felt it was like my only option. So it was that feeling, and it's interesting because that feeling is, you don't have to live in that feeling forever, but it definitely can fuel this thing that will motivate you to move forward a little bit. So I love that you're hiding money in your account so you have that feeling. I've never heard anyone say that before.
Yeah. I used to joke with someone else. Another way that I did this was I decided I wanted to like up my running game. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go running in the morning. I used to sleep in my running clothes. I was like, okay, if I am doing this, I'm going to do it. And then I would literally get up and put the thing on, and there was like no other option. So it works in so many areas of your life, really.
These are really good hacks. I'm going to have to try that.
I know. And I think this is your nature too. I mean, if I'm thinking about you and your competitive advantages, I mean, I watch your Instagram feed and I see the way you work with clients and the directness of that no nonsense energy about the things you really want is so, so important. And sometimes we need to hold that energy for our clients before they have it. Like we're helping them know they want it. And then we're like, you can do this. Let me hold this space for you when you don't believe it's possible, but you can go all in, and I'm going to just be this little safety net, even though frankly, you're going to do it. It's all you, you know what I mean? And such a gift.
Yeah. I mean, in creating your offers and creating messaging and upping your pricing, I mean, all of those things, having someone else to be there to be like, yeah, this is okay. You're going to be okay. And just make it safe for your brain, I think is so important. So, Jess, I love the work that you do. I have one more quick question for you before we wrap up. Thank you so much for spending time with me, especially on a Friday. But I just asked about your business advice. Actually, I have two questions for you. I'd love to know, part of the work that I do with my clients is really honing in on the stories that they're telling in their business marketing, but also the stories that they tell themselves, which is a lot of what we talked about today. And one of those stories I always like to hone in on is your story of generosity or your reciprocity in the world. Is there a place in your business, an organization, or some place where you're really trying to practice that generosity? Because I think as well as I do, I think we had this conversation when we were at Business Made Simple, is when we're giving the law of reciprocity to have things come back into our business, it just explodes things in completely different ways. And it's such a beautiful way to use your business for good in the world. So I'm just curious, is there an organization or somewhere that you love to support in your business?
Yeah. So I think from this perspective of generosity and giving, I agree with you. I think living in this abundant flow where you truly believe there is enough, you are enough, there's enough for everybody out there, changes how you approach your business and others like 100 times over. In my business personally, I try to put a lot of information out there for free. So the way that I view this is I 100% think you should charge your worth, you should charge your value, and you should not undercharge or compromise your pricing. I think that's one of the ways to pull yourself out of an abundant flow immediately. I think the way to do that in service to your community or your clients is when it is aligned. And we've all been there, right? We can feel when it's off. And it feels horrible. Whether we're the person buying or we're the person giving, it's just not aligned. So when you line all those things up, that abundance comes. Part of that in my business model is that there are places where I put information out there for free, where I give so much of that value at no cost. My podcast, for example, and I think podcasting is such a beautiful way to do this. It's all out there. People could probably go through all my podcasts, take my entire model and try to recreate it. And that's awesome for the people that need to do that. So I do believe putting that value out in the world does come back. Because to your point, when people evolve to a place where your offer, your paid offer is the right fit for them and the solution to their problem, they will buy. And it always happens that way. On the other side of that coin, I personally am on a mission to make as much money in alignment with my higher self as I can, help as many people as I can. Money and gifts, those kind of giving things is my love language. I love it. I wish I could buy people things 100 times over. My clients, I love welcome gifts when I do my high-end retreats. It's an amazing immersive experience. That is how I love to live. The more money I make, the more things I can put out into the world, the more reciprocity in that sense that I can give people. And especially giving in an experiential way, meaning you can bring people there. You can expose them to things you couldn't expose them to before. Sometimes they're physical things, like I'm going to give you this awesome, product that I can't live without. And I am like giddy over it. Even talking about it, I get so excited. But it's also the experience, like, hey, we're going to meet in this place and we're going to eat this lovely food and I'm going to take you to dinner, that kind of a thing. So that is really locked up in my business from start to finish. I also do give to charities a lot. Like the American Heart Association is a huge, charity that I give to. I am really passionate, having come from the medical field, about solving childhood disease and supporting people and really making sure that caring for yourself, especially your body, it's like your biggest asset. People do that. And I think that health crisis that I had in the midst of being a new mother and my family and all of that just dials up this concept that you can create more by doing less. You can get clear on your one thing that is going to have the biggest impact on your business as an entrepreneur and create so much more from that and give so much more than if you try to do everything and be everything and run your body into the ground. So that whole concept of medical wellness for me is also a really important piece. And I do give to charities a lot with that piece of my business as well.
Jessica, you're so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Your podcast also, for anyone that has not subscribed yet, it's so good. I put you in my ear. I did 75 hard earlier this year. And so, which was hard. But anyway, you have to work out like a lot. So part of it, I would put you in my earbuds and I would just do little, my little walks. It was January, so it was pretty icy and gross. I wasn't running. But anyway, your podcast is amazing. And I think everyone needs to go find it and listen to it. So good. Well, Jess, I just wanted to really just affirm you. Thank you so much for the energy and joy that you bring to the world and the wisdom that you've given us today. Thank you so much. Your clients are lucky to work with you. I want everyone to go check out your stuff because you mostly work with women. Is that right?
I mostly do, but I do have male clients too.
Okay. But you have some really beautiful retreats that you're talking about. Do you do this once or twice a year?
We're doing them twice a year now. The next one is in November.
They always look so beautiful. I'm going to have to come on one of your next ones because they look stunning. But anyway, I just thank you so much for the energy and joy you bring into the world and for all of us today. This is so much fun to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thanks, Jess. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Origin Stories. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Join me on Instagram and make sure to sign up for our weekly email.